one of my students come in, I want to play Gabriel's oboe. Okay, like he started the oboe yesterday. No, I want to play it. Have you got the music? You got the music? And okay, fine. Anyway, gets the music, goes home, and he learns it over the weekend. And those sorts of students taught me a whole lot about education. That, yeah, the teacher doesn't impart this stuff to you. The teacher finds out how to get it out of you, and you find it in yourself. I was born in Toronto, way back in, a long time ago. 1953, oh my. In the suburbs, I was up in the Keele and Lawrence area of Toronto, that's about a mile from the 401. So when I was a kid, 401 was 4 lanes. Music was always really a big deal for me when I was a really little kid. I had a 78 record player with a radio built into it. And so it was tuned to CFRB Toronto, which was one of the local radio stations. My older brother, he's 8 years older than me, he came in and he says, there's a new radio station you got to listen to. He tuned my radio for me. I didn't know how to tune my radio. So he tuned my radio and put it on CHUM, which had just hit the air. So Chum Radio started, and, okay, I'll listen to this. And I ended up being sort of 3 and 4 years old, listening to, those sort of rock and roll hits earlier than a lot of people possibly my age. Brother John being he'd be 78 now, so that's just right when rock and roll is hitting mainstream, right? He did all that, Chuck Berry and Elvis hitting the scene, and of course Chum was huge, right? That's the thing that drove it in Canada. And also I had this 78 player where you had to change the needle. It had a little screw on it. You got a bag full of needles and you'd stick them in and change the needle. So they taught me how to do that. So my parents taught me how I changed my own needle when I was really little. And I had a recording of Little Burnt Potato by Don Messer and the Islanders. It was a 78. I played that to death, just over and over and over, and my parents must have driven them nuts. But I loved that record, and I'd sit in my little yellow rocking chair and rock back and forth and stare at my radio and listen to Little Burnt Potato. I liked to sing in the choir and stuff like that at church, but junior high school, started playing the euphonium in grade 7. And then in grade 8, my grade 8 teacher, I remember vividly, came in and she said, "So you want to play tuba this year, right, Gordon?" I said, "No." And he said, "Thank you." And that's how I became a tuba player. We played aria and fugue, which was just a dumbed down version of a Bach air and fugue, basically. We've got it for the Yarmouth Citizens Band has it. But that was the thing I thought, this is really cool stuff. Yeah, I like this. And off I went learning, sort of the classics as well. My parents liked sort of light classics, and so those records I knew. I was a huge Beatles fan. The Stones, yeah, okay, but I was a Beatles fan. And the pop stuff, that was fun. That was interesting to me. And then I started getting into FM radio. Jethro Tull caught my attention, so it kind of went off in that direction. And this is kind of cool, and into the whole psychedelic scene and Hendrix and whatnot. But at the same time, I liked the pop stuff, so I would listen to them both. And then outside of that, I'm doing this sort of more band focused, classically focused stuff at school, and discovering Bach and Beethoven through that, and this is great stuff too. I was blessed with having fabulous teachers. I really lucked out in high school. The guy that I had in high school in grade 10 was a fabulous choral guy, and then he moved schools, and we got a guy named Peter Purvis, and he was just dynamite. Fabulous guy at inspiring you to do things, to get the best out of yourself. Yeah, so he was tremendous. So when I was at the point of what am I going to do for a living, well, I could teach. Well, what would I teach? And I can do music. I'm going to be like Peter. I'm going to do what he does.
And welcome to our annual Christmas concert. That, of course, was Hark the Herald Angels Sing. And we'll move right along with another favorite.
The was a fellow up the way. He had a junior high school, and his kids got really good, and he really liked working with these kids, and then they would all graduate. I kind of did the same thing. You have your kids in junior high, then they go off to high school, and all their better playing years you don't get. So anyway, this guy decided he'd start a community band of his ex-students. So I joined the Northdale Concert Band, and they were a stellar outfit. So that's where I started doing whole suites and Vaughan Williams folk song suite and that sort of stuff. I was playing them with that community band. This one was focused on, it was pretty much all high school. By the time they went to university, they'd go away, they'd graduate the band, that sort of thing. But it was pretty much a best of the best high schools. Yeah, well, best of the best, maybe not, but they needed a tuba player, and I had my own horn. So I showed up there and had a great time with that group. But just really great literature that they played. One of the best parts of that, it was a huge multi-purpose room in a hockey arena. And that was one of the things that kind of definitely cemented that I didn't want to do hockey, because all these little kids, and their parents were just vile, screaming at them, And we'd go, our break time, we'd go out and watch the game. These little wee kids, skating on their ankles and falling on their face, and dad's in the audience screaming at them to go beat it. I don't want to do that.
Now, this is always the popular part of the show when we're in the elementary school, because this is where they get to sing along. So feel free if you want to. Santa Claus is coming to town.
I did know I didn't really want to perform. Competition for a tuba player. What does a tuba player get? He's only ever going to be the sideman, because no orchestra can afford to carry a tuba player full time, unless they're huge. And so, that competition was just, I don't want to do that. And besides, I was interested in teaching more than in the music. Well, not more than the music, but it was teaching that was the thing that I was interested in doing. Like any of the kids that I ever had at school that would say they wanted to be a music teacher, my stock line back at them would be, well, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to teach, or do you want to do music? Because if you want to do music, don't teach. They're two different things. It's something that you teach within, but if you want to be a musician, then you will be sorely disappointed in teaching. I auditioned for Queen's and U of T and Western. And I got into Western and Queen's. I thought, well, Western sort of had the better rep for music ed.
Was it right to Yarmouth after that?
Out of Teachers College. It was an interesting time. So it was late 70s, 78 would have been when I came down. And they were doing a lot of declining enrollment in Ontario. So jobs were getting a little bit thin there. But Nova Scotia was actually kind of growing a bit at the time. And Maple Grove was being built. And so they weren't finding what they wanted in Nova Scotia for music teachers, so they advertised in the Globe and Mail. They said they were looking for somebody with experience, so I phoned, I've got to come down from Toronto for this interview, so how many other applicants do you have? And they told me there were 4. One had 10 years experience, and there were 2 girls from Queens. And so I thought, oh, okay. So my dad he was a manager at Toronto Hydro. And so I was talking to him about, it's a lot of money to fly down there, And he's like, well, yeah, but okay, it's middle of August, and this guy with 10 years experience, why doesn't he have work? Don't worry about him. And the other 2 are girls. They're never going to hire a woman for junior high. At the time, he was absolutely right. So he says, it's worth a track, go down. So I flew down and interviewed for the job and got it at Maple Grove, which was great because it was a brand new program. I was buying the horns, setting everything up. So I wasn't the kind of job you were getting straight out of school in Ontario anywhere.
So at that point, you've got euphonium and tuba.
Yeah. And some guitar. I bought my first guitar. It was like $13, and because I would say I want to play these things to my parents. I wanted to play bagpipes, and so so they got me a little chanter sort of thing. Here, try this first. I want to play drums. I need a whole drum set. Well, okay, here, have this one drum. And I want to play the guitar. Okay, so they got me this little $13 guitar. But I actually did learn some chords on that, so I upscaled to a better guitar over time, and then I've gotten carried away.
From my understanding, you play a lot more instruments now.
Yeah, well, a lot of that came from school too, because when I started teaching at Maple Grove, then it was sort of, okay, well, I need to know. I've done the 13 weeks on the flute, and I know how a bassoon functions, and I made a reed, and I made a tongue depressor. But at any rate, that was part of the course. You had to make your own reed and play something on it, and that sounded like I was killing a Canada goose. But at any rate, I played cello for like 13 weeks at school, and I understand the concept and stuff. Never practiced, so I had much longer hair then too. So, and you slide up the neck. Well, I would catch my hair with it every time. I didn't really have a whole lot of background on these things, so at school I'd be, I'd play a trumpet a lot. I'd have it in my hand because it was easy. I'd have a clarinet assembled behind me so I could grab that and no, you want to do it this way. My teaching style was a lot of, I'll show you what to do, and then you try it. And you can probably make this sound better than me. Which the exception would have been bassoon. I didn't try and show any of my bassoon players how to play bassoon. This is the fingering chart, and this is the concept. I'll explain to you, and then off you go and learn how to do it. I think a successful teacher is somebody who can show you that this is where you start, and then get out of the way, and let the kid do it himself, because that's how they're going to learn, and that's how you'll get stuff out of them. Desire is what is at least 70 or 80% of it.
Right.
The girl is way back, comes in, she's got braces top and bottom, wants to play the trumpet. Okay, so everything I've learned at school says no, never put a kid with braces on a brass instrument. You'll rip their mouth to shreds. So Leslie, you don't want to do that. That's not good. You play a clarinet, play a flute. I want to play the trumpet. Okay, so she took a trumpet. All right, you try it, and then we'll change on Monday. So she takes home this trumpet and comes back, and she can play the thing. She ended up being one of my better trumpet players. But she played with no pressure, because if she did, she would have ripped her mouth to shreds. And yeah, she had some issues. And I used my wax for a little while. And I want to play the trumpet. You take the kid out and they perform, and they have success with the tune for the first time. That's a real rush, because they just light right up, and that's a junior high thing. Far too cool by high school for that. But in junior high, there was one tune in Old Vienna. I played that tune every year because it basically plays itself. It's dead simple to play. I think you need 7 notes. Yeah, you didn't even need the whole scale. But it was a whole page long. It was a song, and it was in 3-part harmony. Every time I did that, for the first time you'd get through the tune, the entire class would just light up. We played a song. And it's just cool to watch. They're nuts. The hormones are crazy. They fall in and out of love 5 times during one recess. They can do some pretty bizarre stuff in junior high school, but they're a neat little animal. Conducting the orchestra, that was quite an interesting story. That Lydia Davidson was the driver behind the Yarmouth Orchestra. She had been teaching privately string students. She would get beginners on violin, viola, cello. She'd bring them along to a certain point, and then she'd try putting together string orchestra material and stuff. She really had a vision, wanted to have a symphony orchestra with winds and the whole stuff. I was teaching at Maple Grove at the time, and she approached me. And at that time, her string players, they probably had 2 or 3 years time on the instrument. So they would have been at about the level that my junior high grade 9 guys were. Lydia was a real starter. She would get stuff going. She was just a go-getter lady, just an amazing woman. And people that I knew would say, "Oh, watch out for Lydia. She's gonna, she'll dump it on you." So I went into it knowing, yeah, okay, so this is probably going to end up being, I'm not going to be helping her with this orchestra. She's going to want me to take it over. So I'm good with that. So anyway, I took a long punch. Probably a dozen wind players from junior high. And yeah, we did some pretty rudimentary stuff, and our first concert would have been, "Run away." But then, it just kept going. As it got better then, yeah, my junior high guys weren't good enough to cut it, so it became the high school kids, and it became the adults, and and then there were people there that were there as long as me. So it's like 30 years in the orchestra, and we've been playing together. It was kind of cool.
Did you conduct the Citizens Band as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah, I did. When I first arrived, John Hood was conducting it. Over the years, it kind of dwindled down. It kind of disappeared for a little while, and then came back. And the Citizens Band has been around since the mid-1800s, in one form or another. At one point, it was a firefighters band. At one point, it was the Citizens Band. It was different names. And then when I arrived, they got this band, I'll go play in the band. That was the joke of the day, I think. Herb DeVoe was conducting it at that time. He was a real character. He's a really neat guy. Anyway, Herb was conducting the band. And so I arrived straight down from London, Ontario. So, well, will I have any issues with the union? Union? Well, yeah, the musicians union. I'm a union member. Is this, I thought that was the funniest thing that I ever heard. No longer a member of the musicians union. The first incarnation of the Moonlight Swing Band was a CNIB fundraiser years ago. It was kind of fun, used just Maple Grove swing stage bass charts, so it's pretty easy for adults that could play. So that worked. We put that together. A few years later, thought, oh well, that was fun. Maybe we should try doing that again. And so put the band together again. Swing band ended up being a summer group, because once the orchestra and band were done with the Tuesday night time slot in May, they do their spring concert. Once they're done with that rehearsal spot, then I take it for the swing band and we play through the summer. And then COVID comes along, and we're only 18 piece. So we could get under that magic 20 number. So for at least 3/4 of COVID, we were small enough that we could still play. If it was nice, we'd have practice in the backyard, which was cool. The neighbors didn't complain. It's a different time in my life, so travel's more important. Running an orchestra, running a band, you're committing a pretty major chunk of time that you need to be available. And you can't very well say, well, we're going to do this, and then I'm going to go away for months on end, which I did for a little while. When I first retired, I went away for 3 months, I think, and somebody else ran the orchestra while I was away, and then I came back and did the concert. Somebody else is going to do the legwork, and you're just going to swoop in and conduct. That's no. And then, last year decided it was probably time to hang it up and let Mark take over the orchestra. I did like conducting, yeah. Oh yeah, I did like conducting. I like, still miss it. It's good. I don't hear as well as I used to. While COVID was going on, I'm thinking, okay, well, so when we got to start this up again, what am I going to do? The hearing is getting worse, and rehearsing in small, like a big group like the Citizens Band or the orchestra, in a music room. It's a small space. It's a lot of volume. So how fast is that going to screw it up that I'm totally deaf as a post? So yeah, you got to pick your battle. So recorders aren't bad. They're relatively small, and so I play in the accidental recorder group. That's a fun group, and some really fine musicians we're playing with there. I'm only doing the swing band and working with the shantymen and recorder group. It's not so much an education thing as just being a part of one of the musicians in the group. We are the Shantymen, of course. Just released our 4th album. That was a COVID thing too. What are we doing? We should get together. So our normal rehearsals can sometimes be less than productive. There have been evenings that we would go to shanty practice and possibly not sing anything. That's the thing I like about that group, is that we're first and foremost just a bunch of guys that like it. We're buddies. We get together and it's just a place to go hang out with the guys. But anyway, we decided it's time to we're getting on, so we need to get all this unrecorded stuff in the can. I wasn't in on the first gig, which was supposed to be the only gig. I didn't come in for about a year or two. So I'm a new guy. I've only been with them about 35, 34 years. We exist to sing songs of the sea, sea shanties. which are the work songs of the sea. There was one woman who was describing, she was a musician, and she was saying, yes, you have wandering tonality, which I thought was so great. That was a great line. Yeah, I loved singing, yeah. But yeah, travel's a thing that I'm interested in doing, and time's running out. So like, we're taking off to Tennessee after Thanksgiving. And we spent a fair chunk of time in Mexico over the last couple of years. Mainly because it was the only country that was open. It does seem like the creative community is a reasonably good size around here. And certainly the musicians around in the Yarmouth area, upshore, downshore. My goodness, the quality of musicians around Yarmouth is really amazing. And it is interesting though that I've heard people say, yeah, but you got to go away before Yarmouth doesn't notice you until you go away and make it somewhere else. Like Winter Sleep, they did great stuff, and when they were here, you didn't pay much attention to them. That's changing to some extent. I think there's some pretty good support for local artists. There are things going on around this area, and it's people like Mark Durkee that are getting stuff like that going and nurturing it. I mean, I'm only here for 2 years' experience. I thought, well, I'll come down from Toronto, I'll get my 2 years' experience, I'll move back to Ontario. Anywhere in Ontario that was not Toronto, because I didn't want to be a city boy, I knew I wanted to be a country boy. And so, I came down here for 2 years and then, okay, this is a nice place to, so, Yarmouth became the place to raise the family and so forth. And it's been a good place to live. Thoroughly enjoyed. And, to the point, I've just recently sold my house to my son, and his brother is living with them, so it's great. Everybody's home.
Gordon Rothwell.
Gordon. Mr. Rothwell, it feels weird to call him Gordon.
It took me years and years to be able to call him Gordon. He'll always be Mr. Rothwell.
I actually first met Mr. Rothwell in 1999 when I was in his wife's primary class. And he came in and rocked my world by singing the alphabet backwards.
He made band cool, whether that was the Pink Panther theme or playing the Mission Impossible theme.
Just every class was a joy. I looked forward to it all the time.
I honestly had the best time of my life.
Finally getting to junior high, I'm like, oh, he wasn't a figment of my imagination, he was real.
I always just preferred to be in that classroom at all times.
His enthusiastic and passionate drive to bring music to young people.
I just remember him being always very upbeat and fun.
He was also very patient. I can't imagine how he sat through me blasting those 3 high notes in Friend Like Me from Aladdin on my saxophone over.
He was always enthusiastic and intelligent.
And over.
This guy at the front was just electric.
And over again.
Very encouraging and helpful, and he gave me a confidence that I probably didn't have. I felt like I had found my place in band.
A teacher that truly enjoyed and cared for his students. He always promoted trying something new. It definitely helped build my confidence.
He definitely taught me a lot of confidence.
He definitely had a lot of patience for young musicians.
Very encouraging, very thoughtful.
And he was such an encourager. The patience he must have had.
To put up with all that noise that it must have sounded like. And then you got a guy like me coming along who just wants to start a rock and roll band in my class, essentially.
He has such a passion for music and shared it so enthusiastically with us.
It didn't take him long to get a band going, a junior band, a senior band, and eventually a stage band.
I actually joined, I think, every band they had.
I joined every band I could. It was just a fun, amazing time.
That's due to his leadership.
I still to this day enjoy a lot of the music that he directly introduced me to.
It wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have the appreciation for a lot of other different styles of music as I do now.
Different classical music. Of course, we had a lot of exposure to 60s and 70s rock.
He introduced me and many of my classmates to Weird Al.
7th grade music class, I don't think I knew what an orchestra was, and by 9th grade, absolutely fell in love with orchestras.
There was one, Dr. Demento's Fish Heads, which lives rent-free in my head forever now.
He taught the sheet music, he taught the confidence, how music worked, its ebbs and flows and ups and downs.
He would pack us all into his blue van, instruments and kids just kind of thrown into the back. I think the rules were different then. He would drag us off to play for the elementary schools at the Kmart Mall as well, where he had us out playing in public.
I made many friendships over the years because of playing music.
And he asked what I wanted to do as a career. I wanted to be a professional musician. And he said, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, if anyone could do it, it would be you. And he didn't give me the typical adult response, which is, music's good, but you should have a backup plan. The guy never forgot it.
I had a hard time in school, struggling with anxiety and depression, but Gordon made it bearable. We used to go to his room at lunch and he would play music with all of us, giving up his own lunch hour.
I need to get into music like this man has gotten into music, because obviously he's having the time of his life.
In 2014, when Mark Palmer put on a production of Annie at the Yark, I was able to play with the pit orchestra, and Gordon was our conductor. This card was sitting on my music stand, and it was from Gordon. It says, "It gives me a great feeling to make music with someone who started with me, one of my kids. You are a great talent, and I'm very thankful for all you give to this show and music in this town. Honored to know you, I am. Let's do it."
We were supposed to have a music test, and I decided last minute, you know what, I'm going to go for the hard song. We had to play in front of the whole class. Put the new song up, got about 3 measures in, and realized that I did not know how to play this song nearly as well as I'd thought. And I just stopped and went, I can't do it. Gordon was sitting in the corner there, looked down over the top of his glasses, and he goes, "You can do it." So I went back to the piece of music that I had tried. It's probably debatable whether I actually did do it or do it well, but that is Rothwell to a T. Just encouraging, no nonsense.
Grade 9, I had my husband there. He sat beside me, neither of us were good at music, so we chatted. It was a safe space, love blossomed.
I truly don't think I would have been the kid that I was in middle school if I hadn't have had you for a teacher.
Gordon, it's been such a pleasure to know you.
Definitely my all-time favorite teacher ever.
That early enthusiasm for music has certainly stayed with me, and I hope that I can pass that enthusiasm on to my students as well.
He was a great teacher. He seemed to have a really good approach.
He was a great teacher, and I'll for always remember him.
Lots of gratitude towards him, and I'm very thankful that he was around for that part of my childhood.
He was one of the legends, that's for sure.
I'll forever be thankful for that safe space and that kind teacher.
Thanks, Mr. Rothwell.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rothwell.
Thank you, Gordon Rothwell.
Thank you, Mr. Rothwell.
So, thanks, Gordon.
Thank you so much, Gordon.